Welcome to Family Law Talk. Family Law Talk. Presented by Kirk Stange of Stange Law Firm, PC. Stange Law Firm is a multi-state family law firm. Now, here's your host, Kirk Stange.
Welcome to Family Law Talk. We have an interesting topic today. The topic is family law simple? And this episode today is based on an article on our blog, familylawheadquarters.com, dated May 11th, 2025. And the title of that article is, Are Divorce and Family Law Matters Simple? So as a follow-up to the episode today, go on over to our blog and read this article for more information on this topic. But let's go ahead and jump into the episode today and cover this topic, okay? Look, the view of many is that divorce and family law matters are simple, or that it should be simple. I've heard this concept and this notion throughout the years over and over again, okay? Sometimes it's from individuals that are not lawyers, that aren't going through divorce or family law matters. These are just individuals out in the community, and their viewpoint is this is simple stuff, okay? And sometimes, I've encountered other attorneys, certain judges, and they think, what is so complex about this, okay? Family law, divorce matters are simple. And the notion or the concept of the theory, if you will, really revolves around this, which is this kind of idea, if you will, that look, parties should resolve their differences quickly. They should save money on legal fees. They should walk away from the divorce or family law matter friendly and amicably. And many even think, look, exes can be great friends after a breakup, after a divorce. Okay, they can move on, they can be friends. Maybe they can keep in contact, even hang out, and they'll let bygones be bygones. And this should be easy, right? Why can't people do this? This is the viewpoint. The viewpoint is that, why not? This should be the case, right? People should just be friends. They should be pals at the end of it. And what's so hard about this, okay? Look, this view makes theoretical sense. I understand the concept and I understand the notion. And in the perfect world, this would actually be the case, right? People could get their case done quickly. They could move on, not spend a lot of money, and they could at least be cordial and amicable with each other, okay? Any reasonable person would want this, right? Conceptually, I guarantee you that most individuals, if they were polled or surveyed, they'd say, yeah, I want this. It'd be great to get along with my ex without disputes, squabbles, going back to court, and this would be a wonderful, great thing, okay? But really the question is this, which is in most instances, is this realistic? Is family law and divorce cases simple most of the time, or is this just an idea? Okay, look, reasonable minds can disagree on this. I know certain attorneys, people that have been involved in the divorce and family law system might say, yeah, it's simple. I'm able to resolve most of my cases. But look, the reality is this is often not true. And I think a lot of individuals and lawyers and courts and judges and people who've gone through this and been involved understand that in a lot of cases, this is a great idea. It's a great notion. It's like saying give peace a chance, and you're hoping for peace, right? You're aspiring for peace. Everybody wants peace. But at the end of the day, in a lot of cases, it isn't to be, okay? And so for a lot of individuals, when they're really wrestling with this, and they think, well, why isn't this simple? Why can't people just do this thing? Why can't people just be, right? Just be big people. They move on. They treat the other person with respect and they don't hold any hard feelings. And this ought to be easy and simple. I mean, to those individuals, look, one of the things that can really muddy this is the reasons for the breakup. Okay, and a lot of divorce and family law matters, the breakup was ugly, right? The breakup wasn't good, right? There could have been fights, there could have been arguments, there could be affairs, right? This could have been years in the making. There could be built up resentment, built up pain, anguish people have experienced. And so for a lot of individuals, they're not going to be able to move on in this kind of way. I understand in theory, again, it sounds great. But for those looking at it from the outside, they haven't gone through what the individual going through the divorce or family law matter has gone through, right? They haven't been in their shoes, right? They were not there when X, Y, and Z event happened. And so from a distance, while they think individuals ought to just let it go and move on, for a lot of individuals, you just have to know it's easier said than done, right? So it seems simple, but maybe it's overly simplistic to think that most individuals are going to be able to just move past this stuff easily. Look, and for some individuals, this is counseling. You got to go through counseling for a long period of time to even work past these things. But this isn't something that's simple and easy for a lot of people, where it's just like flipping a light switch and the hard feelings are just gone. For a lot of individuals going through divorce or family law matter, those hard feelings are always kind of there, even if they've moved past them in a lot of ways, but they're always kind of there. And sometimes it could be a situation where maybe one person just let it all go, they're ready to move on, but the other person isn't, right? So it takes two people to fully move on and let things go. And that's easier said than done, okay? Substantively, while it's great to think that family law is simple, people could just meet in the middle and just end the case, at the end of the day, where the parties have kids and there's assets and debts, look, the results of these cases can be long-lasting and they can be important. I mean, what the outcome of these cases turns out to be can have a huge impact on how somebody's life is going to be, right? So while it's easy from the outside to just say meet in the middle, right? Split it in half, right? You want $500 a month. The other parties want to give $1,000 a month, settle on $750, let's say, for child support or maintenance. That's easier said than done. Okay, for a lot of individuals going through this, it's not that simple. Okay, it's overly simplistic to think it's that simple, because the effects, the impacts of this case can endure, and particularly when you're talking about kids too. A parent's right access to their kids, custody of their kids, decision making over the kids, in terms of joint or sole legal custody, these kinds of things are long impacted by the results of these cases. So it's not easy for a lot of individuals just to reach a quick deal and then end the case, right? And so it seems simple, but perhaps it's overly simplistic in a lot of cases to think these are easy decisions for parties, okay? One of the other things I've heard throughout the years is this, which is, well, why can't parties just get together without their attorneys, work out a settlement, just talk, be reasonable, be logical, be practical, write down the settlement terms, give it to their lawyers, and be done. Why is this so hard? Can't people do this? It seems simple to me. I've heard people say, well, look, here's the problem. I mean, sometimes this can happen, but oftentimes it can't. And you say, why? Well, sometimes there's a power imbalance. There's one individual who oftentimes is making the decisions, they're used to getting their way, and the other person gets trampled over, or they get pushed into a terrible deal because the other person's a lot more assertive, let's say, and the other person's a lot more passive. And so just sitting and meeting and coming up with an arrangement, look, this really only works where both parties come there with equal leverage, with equal ability to communicate and negotiate and hold the line. In a lot of circumstances, it's just not practical, okay? In a lot of circumstances and situations, you got to know if parties try to do this, it's going to turn into a big argument. So if parties sit down and they try to reach their own settlement, I've seen this go way south, and it ends with yelling and screaming and hollering, and people are more upset. And so it's difficult. And, one of the things I've said for years, and this is the truth, which if parties were able to compromise, meet in the middle, come up with reasonable and practical solutions, they might not be getting divorced in the first place, or they might not have broke up in the first place. And so for a lot of parties, they're not good at doing this. This is why they're not together anymore. So if you think it's simple for them just to sit and meet and come up with a practical solution, in a lot of cases, think again. It's just not that simple, okay? And if parties enter deals that aren't fair, that aren't reasonable, what can happen in a lot of circumstances is then one of the parties just comes back on a motion to modify later to try to change it. Or somebody remains bitter and upset about the case outcome for a long time. And then this can cause parties not to get along and be friends and want to hang and be around each other after a divorce or family law matter because they're upset about the way the case went, the outcome, the agreement that was reached, okay? And so look, the idea that family law is simple, I get it. In the perfect world, it would be. In the real world, it's just not the case a lot of the time, okay? So look, at the end of the day, for parties to reach a settlement to conclude a divorce or family law matter, this isn't easy for a lot of people, okay? Even where parties can't agree on the big picture items, like they say, well, we're going to agree to joint custody, or we're going to agree to divide everything in half. All the details then need to be ironed out. And these details matter, like the days of the week the parties get the kids and the times and how they're going to divide the holidays and the summertime and how they do the exchanges and what they do when they can't agree, okay? And even if you say you're going to divide the property and debt equally, you then need to value it. And it's not as simple as cutting every asset in half. Sometimes it's a matter of you get this asset, I'm going to get that asset, they're worth the same. Right? And so these details have to be worked out. And this is hard. Even where parties conceptually agree on the concepts, the details can hang it up a lot of the time, all right? In cases where parties cannot settle, court dates are going to occur, like settlement conferences or pretrial conferences or motion dates or you name it. And then at the end of the day, if the parties can't settle at these kinds of court dates or through settlement negotiations, then there'll be an evidentiary hearing or a trial at some point. And in these circumstances, parties certainly need a skilled and diligent lawyer that understands the complexities of these cases and knows court rules and the rules of evidence, and they're able to present the case, okay? Even where the parties are trying to settle and they don't want a trial or a hearing, it's still important to have a lawyer who can effectively negotiate. And in most circumstances, at least throughout my career, in terms of what I've seen, it's better when the lawyers negotiate on behalf of their clients. This ensures that there's a power imbalance, that doesn't come into play. This ensures if the parties, might end up yelling and screaming at each other, that's not going to happen now because the lawyers are doing this. And then when you get into the details, all these details are worked out on the front end. It's not a situation, well, we agreed on big picture items, but now we're fighting over details. If the lawyers are negotiating, then these details can be worked out too. Okay, so again, the concept of simplistic family law, divorce and family law being simple and easy, and if it's not simple and easy, what's the party's problems and what's the lawyer's problems? This ought to be simple and easy, and people ought to move on. Again, I understand the concept. I appreciate it. In theory, we all want peace. We all want settlement. This is a good thing, and I do think it's important that most cases settle and not be resolved through a trial. At the same time, this isn't easy. In a lot of cases, this isn't simple. For far too many, it's complex, it's nuanced, and the details do matter, okay? So definitely an interesting topic, one I wanted to cover today. As a follow-up to the episode today, go on over to familylawheadquarters.com, read my article titled, Are Divorce and Family Law Matters Simple? This will give you more information on this topic, but thanks for tuning in today. Stay tuned to our next episode of Family Law Talk coming up. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Family Law Talk with Kirk Stange. Visit StangeLawFirm.com for more about today's topic or to put Stange Law Firm to work for your family today. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements. Neither the Supreme Court of Missouri or Illinois reviews or approves certifying organizations or specialist designations. The information you obtained in this podcast is not, nor is it intended to be, legal advice. You should consult an attorney for advice regarding your individual situation. We invite you to contact us and welcome your calls, letters, and electronic mail. Contacting us does not create an attorney-client relationship. Please do not send any confidential information to us until such time as an attorney-client relationship has been established. Past results afford no guarantee of future results, and every case is different and must be judged on its own merits. Kirk Stange is responsible for the content. Headquarters, Office 120 South Central Avenue, Suite 450, Clayton, Missouri 63105. Kirk Stange is licensed in Missouri, Illinois, and Kansas.